tonight. The Green Party officially launched its Northern BC-specific campaign today. Plus, with the election just over 2 weeks away, how have regional voting numbers been historically for provincial elections? And we take a look into the struggling forestry industry in Mackenzie. Good evening, folks. I'm Eddie Huband, and welcome to CKPG News. Our top story tonight: with just over 2 weeks remaining before the provincial election, the BC NDP party has unveiled their complete election platform, with leader David Eby saying working to solve challenges in BC is what gets him out of bed each morning. That platform includes commitments to provide a $1,000 middle-class tax cut, building 300,000 affordable homes, finding a family doctor for everyone in the province, ensuring safer streets by giving police more powers to fight gangs, and creating good jobs by expanding training programs. Eby is also promising to ensure every public school has a mental health counselor and pledged to end what he described as a bias against pet owners by scrapping no pet clauses in purpose-built rental buildings. And as the NDP unveils its election platform, the BC Conservatives have also released a series of pledges related to infrastructure, transit, and boosting the economy. Conservative leader John Rustad says his government would end the ICBC monopoly on basic auto insurance, a plan he says would bring in competition, drive down costs, and improve services. Rustad says an equivalent to the no-fault model would remain in place for minor injuries, but he wants to make sure people who sustain life-altering injuries and crashes get the supports that they need. Meanwhile, the BC Green Party is running a slate of 69 candidates in the provincial election, with 3 in this region. And while this region is not what experts would consider a green riding, traditionally resource-based in nature, the 3 local candidates have launched their campaigns today in Prince George with a Northern BC-specific platform. Cheryl Jan reporting.
2 of the 3 local BC Green candidates came out with their official Made in Northern BC platforms today, while the overarching BC Green mandate of promoting the principles of participatory democracy, sustainability, social justice, respect for diversity, ecological wisdom and nonviolence, the 3 local candidates have their eyes on local issues. Prince George Mackenzie candidate James Stidle was a latecomer to the campaign, but says forestry is a huge key issue for the riding he hopes to represent.
We've had the mill shut down in Prince George and Mackenzie. We've seen issues like lingering from the previous administration of the BC Liberals, where we sold off BC Rail, where we're not getting rail service to Mackenzie to service the existing mills that remain up there. And here in Prince George, we saw Bear Lake, that the Polar sawmill closed down. We've seen shutdowns of the local pulp mills, and this is going to affect thousands and thousands of jobs. Gwen
Johansson says born and raised in McBride means she's intimately familiar with the issues of the Robson Valley, whether it's forestry in her home community or tourism in Valemount.
I have deep roots in that, so I think that I can understand some of the issues that have existed there for a long time, and I know the background, how they came to be. So I think that's I wouldn't have run in any other riding because I don't have the background.
However, she says her riding is very diverse, the rural Robson Valley and the urban Prince George.
They're looking at clinic closures, they're looking at they're wondering about the schools, and so that's what is at one end of the riding, and then you come to Prince George, which is the exact opposite, and you've got lots of growth and lots of activities happening. And so, yeah, it's a matter of trying to understand the diversity, I think, of the whole community.
And Stidle acknowledges there are other issues his sought-after riding needs to grapple with.
We want to see more local democracy. We want to see more ownership of our local forestry industry. We want to see improvements in healthcare. We also want to see addictions treatments being improved in our region. We want to see more local food security being brought to the table, and we want to see important action being done on climate change and addressing the decarbonization of our economy, moving away from the fossil fuel industry for the future of British Columbia and moving towards other economic bases.
And both candidates call the BC Greens the only rational option from the mainstream. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.
Just one candidate showed up once again for the Prince George Mackenzie All-Candidates Forum at UNBC last night. James Stidle of the BC Greens was there to discuss the ongoing energy transition in BC. But Char McCrory of the NDP, Kyle Giddens of the BC Conservatives, and independent candidate Rachel Weber were no-shows. Another forum is scheduled for tonight at the Canfor Theatre, with candidates in the Prince George North Caribou riding invited to take part. And in case you missed last night or you can't make it tonight, tune into CKPG TV's Candidates Forum at 7 o'clock this evening, featuring the Prince George Mackenzie riding. And now, with the election still over 2 weeks out, voting is already open at your local district electoral offices, with advanced voting opening next week. This election run has been full of twists and turns, with all polls predicting a tight finish between the NDP and the Conservatives. But what is the expectation for voter turnout come October 19th? Tommy Osborne answers that question in our next story.
The upcoming provincial election has presented many voters with a highly contrasting choice. Do you vote for the BC NDP, who have been ruling for 7 years, or the surging BC Conservatives, who even just 1 year ago may not have even been worth considering?
When a party is in power for 2 terms, sometimes they lose popularity, and you'll have this push to kind of replace them, a push for change, which kind of seems to be fueling the BC Conservatives right now. You might see those core NDP supporters, traditional supporters of the NDP, worried about a shift to the far right, the Conservative Party, and that may motivate them.
Due to shifting ridings, historic voting numbers per riding were not available, but Elections BC says Prince George as a whole typically hovers around the provincial average. Since 2005, the percentage of eligible voters voting ranged from 54% to 62%. With huge issues like crime, healthcare, affordability, and more dominating headlines this election cycle, on top of the dichotomy of the NDP versus Conservatives, some believe we could break the trend and see stronger turnout.
Given all the high-profile issues that we see in the news right now that people are concerned about, we could see an uptick in voting.
As for Elections BC, it says the focus is entirely on getting people out to vote and making the process as smooth as possible.
What our focus really on is making sure that there's no administrative barriers for voters to turn out. So we have the most accessible voting model in Canada. Voters can vote from when the election is called right up until the close of voting on final voting day.
Youth, we know traditionally don't have a high voter turnout, so we reached out to the college to see whether or not what we could do to encourage them to vote. We reached out to the Prince George Native Friendship Centre for the same reason. We know that the Aboriginal community often does not have a large voter turnout, so we wanted to see what we could do to encourage their turnouts.
The election is only 2 weeks away, but voting is already open at the district electoral offices, and advanced voting begins on October 10th. So the district electoral office encourages you to get out and vote. Tommy Osborne, CKPG News.
All right, we'll shift from politics to crime now. A 30-year-old repeat offender has been arrested in Quesnel. This arrest follows a police pursuit that began at around 9 p.m. last night, following reports of a suspicious vehicle in the area of Spears Road and Heinzelman Road. RCMP finally arrested the suspect after the vehicle he was driving in collided with another vehicle near Maple Drive and Highway 97. This driver fled on foot but was arrested a short time after. Police say the driver of the other vehicle was taken to hospital with minor injuries, while the suspect was due to appear in court today. The suspect's name has not been released. The District of Mackenzie is hoping to turn a new chapter when it comes to forestry. There have been some positive signs in recent weeks, and the mayor is still holding out hope for the industry in her community. Adam Burles has more.
Forestry has taken a number of hits recently, and the District of Mackenzie is still dealing with the closure of the Canfor sawmill back in 2019, then followed by the closure of the pulp mill in 2020. But there have been positive signs in recent weeks.
Mackenzie was built specifically to support the forest industry 60 years ago, and forestry is still a mainstay in this community. We still do have operating mills here. The recent tenure transfer from Canfor to the 2 nations in the area, the McLeod Lake Indian Band and the CKPG Nation, I think are going to open up some opportunities in our community.
Joan Atkinson has talked before about seeing trees harvested in Mackenzie and then being driven out of town to be processed elsewhere. With the recent tenure transfer from Canfor to the McLeod Lake Indian Band and the CKPG Nation, the trucks full of logs leaving town could end up staying in town.
I tell people it can only get better. Canfor shut down in 2019, and every log that they have harvested since that time has left town to be harvested somewhere else. This puts an end to that. I know CKPG has signed an agreement with Provectus Biofuels, and they're looking at establishing a biofuel plant in Mackenzie that will turn wood waste into low-octane gasoline, so that is in the works right now.
The problem that faces Mackenzie currently is that when big industry left, they took a large chunk of the tax base with them, leaving residential homeowners to pick up the burden.
Mackenzie has been fortunate for many decades that we had big industry here, and they took care of probably more than 50% of the tax base that was required to run the community. That is now down below 35%, and of course that means that tax burden has to be shifted to our residential homeowners. So, we're going to have some tough budgeting discussions this fall, but we're very lucky that our community has no debt.
Pattison Media is owned by the Jim Pattison Group, a majority shareholder in Canfor. Adam Burrows, CKPG News.
The summer tourism season has wrapped up for Tourism Prince George, and it was a year of transition, moving into a new temporary facility, and that impacted how much they could be open. But despite the change, they still saw an uptick in visitors that rolled through the information center. Cheryl Jan reports.
The former Visitor Information Centre on First Avenue has been closed for months, once the home for Tourism Prince George. Its new home is in the rotunda between the Civic Centre and the library, and despite its new digs, it was a banner year.
We were open about 13% less time versus 2023, but we had almost 15% more visitors. Even though we were in a temporary location, even though we had some issues with signage and getting them updated, but still the numbers increased this year versus last year. So, that's really positive, and we see that as an area where we can definitely grow in the future.
Tourism in the region leans heavily on what's called rubber tire traffic, the RVers who flow through the region. And while the move put the Visitor Information Centre's focus smack in the middle of downtown, no problem.
We still did get those RVs. We still get those long-haul travelers. And, it's one of those things where as long as they're utilizing technology at the moment, then they can still find us easily. We're having some issues getting the signage changed over, but once that's done, it'll be easy for people to access here. And we're working with the city on some innovative solutions for parking for RVs and bigger vehicles as well. So, we still did see those visitors.
And work is well underway on converting the rotunda into the new Visitor Information Centre, soon to be occupying both levels.
It's been a process for sure, getting it renovated and up to where it needs to be a visitor center, but it's getting close now. We should be in here before the end of the year, and really looking forward to that, especially as the big conference season kicks off really in January, and we'll be in our home for that and being able to serve visitors that way.
Colin Carson says the works should be done by the end of this year, just in time for one of the bigger conferences to come to the city, the Natural Resources Forum in January. But despite the new location and something of a new clientele that comes with it, tourism's strategic plan does not change.
Us being here with the Civic Center, the doors are going to be open during conferences. People can pop over and grab a map and talk with us, and hopefully we can impact their experience in Prince George that way. So, it's not going to take a lot of a different approach for us. We will have some different materials up and all around the community trying to direct people here once we fully are open. But in terms of tactics, it's not changing much.
With this CCAN now closed and the new Visitor Information Centre yet to open in the Rotunda at the Civic Centre, you can expect to see a lot more pop-ups all over at events around town. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.
The lowest gas price in Prince George is currently sitting at $1.53.9 per litre at Costco. The lowest price in the province right now is in Dewdney at $1.43.9 per litre. Manitoba has the lowest fuel prices on average in Canada at $1.28.2 per litre, while BC has an average price of $1.63.4 per litre.
CKPG Sports is delivered by Domino's. Join the Domino's Lunch Club with 25% off all regular price pizzas every day. Visit Domino's.ca to join the club.
The Prince George Cougars got a big boost ahead of their game in Kelowna, taking on the Rockets last night. Newly minted captain Riley Height, along with star forward Tarek Parasak, made their season debuts after returning from NHL training camps. And both players wasted little time getting back into the swing of things, leading the Cats to a big 5-2 victory. Height and Parasak each with 3-point nights. The Cougars actually trailed this game 2-1 heading into the third, but as this team did so many times last year, they exploded offensively in the final frame, outscoring the Rockets 4-0 for a big victory. The Cougars get their third win of the year, and they'll continue their 5-game roadie in Seattle on Friday. And as mentioned, the two returning stars, Height and Parasak, were dynamic in their season debuts, so much so that they earned WHL Highlight of the Night for an absolutely gorgeous tic-tac-toe goal early in the third to tie things up. Have a look at this thing of beauty.
For Gillespie knocked away, and now balance the other way in a 3-on-2. He's got Height. He'll feed a Height. He'll look in. Parasak will score. Oh, what a great three-way passing play. Vallis to Height. Height to Parasak. Bing, bang, boom. Back of the net, and the Cougars have tied it at 2. Tarek Parasak.
The TSX is down 33 points to close at 23,969. The Dow Jones is down 185 points to close at 42,012. And Artemis Gold went down 16 cents to close at $13.20.
Good evening again, everyone. We've got lots of unsettled weather to talk about as we move forward into the next couple of days. Of course, looking back on the satellite, lots and lots of cloud cover today. A very overcast pattern where we are. You can see a little more of that clearing right down through the southern half of the province. But for the most part, yes, this is what we're seeing right now. So we are tracking another system coming in overnight tonight. There it is there into our later Thursday night, but particularly over us for Friday. So that's when we're really going to see those temperatures dropping and precipitation really picking up. So we do have a fairly good chance of rain right through most of the day tomorrow. We could see quite a few millimeters falling. And then there's Friday, or rather Saturday. Here's Saturday, and we've got sort of a bit of a break, but not much before another system starts to come in, which you'll see here in just a second. So very unsettled right through the next couple of days. There's the brief break, and there's the next system. Sunday at this point might be our best chance for a little bit of that nicer weather coming back. 9 degrees our high tomorrow, a cool one, a very wet one. Lots of rain in the forecast up in the Peace as well. Actually, a clearing trend along the north coast tomorrow as we see most of that precipitation tracking inland, even down through the southern half of the province. Now starting to see a change. There's been some sunny days there, but going into the next, well, at least for Friday, we've got some showers that we're tracking, especially along coastal sections for sure. Our broadcast region looks like this tomorrow. It's cool and wet. That's pretty much the best way to sum it up. 8 degrees Vanderhoof, 11 in Quesnel. Lots of rain showers everywhere you go. Mackenzie only a high of 5 tomorrow, so you make sure to bundle up. It'll be chilly out there. 15 along the west coast as we look across the country. A wet one for everybody in Vancouver. 14 Edmonton. Not a lot of precipitation going forward through a lot of the country, but certainly still some cloud cover in the mix. 16 Winnipeg. We've got beautiful sunshine over in St. John's tomorrow, and lots of nice temperatures, or at least pleasant temperatures for this time of the year. So we'll use the word pleasant for some areas into the weekend, but really where we are, it'll be mostly south that they see most of the sunshine. We've got the chance, though, at least for our Sunday, well, not in Burns Lake, maybe Saturday, but rain and drizzle tonight, 3 degrees, 7 tomorrow. You've got afternoon showers and then a break on Saturday. So a pretty unsettled one for Mackenzie the next few days, and only a high of 5 tomorrow. So rainy, very cool, but you bump the temperatures back up at least for Saturday and Sunday. Brief chance of a sunny break on Saturday. It will be dry in McBride for the weekend and a little bit milder than the next day or so, but very wet tonight and tomorrow. Lows of +2 tonight. Quesnel down to 6. A few showers overnight tonight, mainly rain through the early half of your day tomorrow, and then 12 degrees with cloudier skies on Saturday, lingering showers as well. There's still the potential, I think, for some sunshine on Sunday. We've got thick cloud cover here, but I'm pretty confident we might see a sunny break or two. At least we hope. 4 degrees tonight, rain and drizzle for us. We are looking at the rain picking up through the day tomorrow, especially in the early morning. Our high only about 8 or 9 degrees, so a very cool one for us. We'll get back to a milder trend for Saturday, Sunday. Breezy on Saturday, still a few showers in the mix on Saturday, and then hopefully a nice clearing trend, or at least a chance for some clear weather here and there on Sunday.
CKPG Sports is delivered by Domino's. Join the Domino's Lunch Club with 25% off all regular price pizzas every day. Visit domino's.ca to join the club.
Tonight's CKP3 showcases the best of what's been a thrilling start to the MLB postseason. Yesterday saw 2 crazy comeback wins and a pair of teams advancing to the divisional round. It's all here with Tommy Osborne.
The Detroit Tigers pulled off the huge upset in thrilling fashion.
The left when he sets the 1-2, swinging a line drive down the left field line, hooking toward the corner. Fair ball up against the wall. Fairling is in. Torkelson is in. They're waving him home. Torkelson around third. He will score.
Houston was in pretty good position to tie the series up, but the Tigers came roaring back with a 4-run 8th inning to secure their spot in the second round of the playoffs. Taking advantage of some untimely walks, base hits, and of course that huge game-winning triple, Detroit remains the ultimate underdog story and should continue to be a fan favorite going forward. But Detroit wasn't the only team to come back.
He swings and drives one out towards right center. Taylor back, and it's gone!
Facing a potential exit, the Milwaukee Brewers delivered when it mattered most, with a 3-run 8th inning to take the lead and the win over the Mets. Will the Brewers keep this momentum going into Game 3, or will the Mets, like the Tigers, pull off the upset? Either way, Game 3 should be electric, with both teams delivering highlight-worthy moments. And while it wasn't a comeback, the Padres also enjoyed a huge inning.
Merrill, center field. Harris back, still going. He can't get it. Bounces off the wall.
I guess comebacks aren't really San Diego style. They decided to get all the scoring out of the way in the second inning. All 5 runs were scored in the second inning, but it ended up being enough as the Padres would go on to take a 5-4 victory and advance to the divisional round in tonight's CKP3.
Thanks for joining us as always. Caden Fanshaw, he's up next with that Today Show talking about spiders, I guess. Tommy Osborne is up at 6:30, and remember, Prince George, no matter what life throws at you, just keep swimming. See you later.